Margins over popularity. I think this is a big one. Okay. Most of the time, we want to win as many deals as we possibly can. So we're willing to discount, we're willing to give up something. And you win more deals, sure, you're popular. But I would focus on winning less deals and having your margins be higher. Don't be the discount shop. What's up, everybody? Cam Hemphill here, your host for the Medical Millionaire podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. I'm so thankful for all of you. I just want to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this show. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for the content. Thank you for the comments, the shares, the reviews, the collaboration, how we have been able to work together to continuously grow this show, grow the audience, and put great content out there for practice owners that want to thrive. That's the notion of this show. That's why I show up and do this week after week after week. There is nothing in return for me, right? There's no economic exchange besides the sense that I know there's people out there that need to hear this, need to take action, need to implement, actually want to grow their practice, want to be better entrepreneurs, want to be leaders, want to be business owners, want to help patients, desperately want to help patient outcomes. That's why I produce it. And so thank you so much for everybody that truly does tune in, whether it's monthly, weekly, quarterly, I don't care. Thanks for sharing it, and also quick update. I have recently launched the YouTube channel. So if you're more of a visual person and you want to watch the show on YouTube, I've taken the time to upload all the videos to YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search Cameron Hemphill. I don't even know the studio title name yet, but it's Cameron Hemphill. Search that on YouTube. You'll find it. Do me a favor, subscribe. I'm trying to get some more subscribers. It's a brand new show out there. Obviously, still the same content and everything in that regard, but the YouTube channel is new, right? So I'd love to grow that. All right, guys, 2025, how'd it go for you? Was it solid? Did you grow? Did you have success? Did you have pain? Did you cry? I bet you did all those things, right? Did you close your doors? Could have happened. Did you reopen them? Who knows, right? Like, look, practice is closed in 2025. That is the truth. There was a interesting sentiment for 25. It felt a little stagnant. It felt what's going on, what's going to happen. Maybe some of that had to do with the new administration. Maybe some of that had to do with just the overwhelming amount of growth we've had prior to 25. And so it was just an interesting year, and I know that practices have grown, and I know that practices have closed their doors. Those patients have to go somewhere. Those patients have gone somewhere. They want the outcomes. They want the treatments. They want professional providers. They want to hire somebody that actually engages, asks them questions. They want somebody that's going to deliver results, that's going to deliver outcomes time and time again. They want to be your raving fan. And so those patients, guess where they went? They probably went to the people that are tuning into this podcast because they didn't just die. If the practice is closed, that doesn't mean the patients just died. They went somewhere. I'm telling you right now that consolidation is real. It's taking place more than I have ever seen. And only the strong survive, right? And look, entrepreneurship is hard. Practice ownership, I think, is extremely hard. You guys have to wear so many hats and service your patients at the same time. And so, wow, what a rewarding job. What a rewarding professional career. But at the same time, I can relate to your challenges. I have worked with medical aesthetics practices and elective wellness practices for years, 10 years, over 10 years now. My gosh. And I'm still getting started. I'm still having fun. So hopefully you guys have some badass New Year's resolutions. Hopefully those resolutions turn into discipline, and hopefully you guys are taking your practice as serious as you should be, because patients are counting on you. And, that's a big obligation to fulfill. So let's talk about 26. 26 is, today's January 6th. We're 6 days into the year. And as I look at it, sentiment is strong. Enthusiasm is strong. Energy is high. The market in terms of the economy, right? What's happening on Capitol Hill, what's happening in Wall Street, this whole Venezuela thing that's taken place. People are starting to get extremely bullish on what's about to take place in America. So if you own a business or a practice in America and you take the time to really operate that function as a business, right? Not just as a side hustle, got one foot in, one foot out, you're in there every day. You're working on it during the weekends, the nights. You breathe it, you feel it, you drink it. It's your Kool-Aid, it's your brand, it's your honey butter. I mean, it's your thing, right? It's your honey bucket of fun. So like, if you're in it, you're going to win it. And you have to become a better business owner, and that's what I really want everybody to do in 2026. So when you look at the economy, what's taking place? We are now experiencing what we call as quantitative expansion. They use these fancy words on Wall Street and Capitol Hill to try to confuse us. Basically, what that means is they're going to start printing a ton of cash. They have no other way out. They have to print cash. And when we print cash, that just injects capital into the market. And that capital has to go somewhere. People trade, they buy, they sell, they buy, they sell, they exchange goods. And when goods are exchanged, GDP goes up. When GDP goes up, then you're going to see a bullish market. That's the notion. That's everything that I've been studying and reading. As you know, you have to really focus outside of your practice to know what's happening from an economical standpoint. Right? Because if you're in a recession, a bad economy, and expecting double-digit growth, maybe your expectations are out of whack. So you almost have to really, really start to tune in and educate yourself on what's happening within the economy as a whole, and you're going to see some interesting things taking place. I think over the next quarter, you have re-elections taking place, with halftime coming up is what I call it. And people like to be re-elected. Whether we like it, don't like it, doesn't really matter. The point that I'm trying to make is sentiment is high, and you better be prepared, because patients are going to have cash and they're going to want to spend it, because we want to feel good and we want to look good, right? So let's jump into it. 2026 in the aesthetic and elective wellness industry, I think it's still booming. I predict, and other roundtable discussions I've been a part of has predicted that we're going to see double-digit growth, whether that's 10%, 20%. I see it going north of 20%, but I expect it to be right around that 10 to 15% growth. And so, it's maturing. Our industry is absolutely maturing. Business owners are getting smarter. Practice owners are starting to really understand numbers, KPIs, metrics, marketing to spend ratio. I could tell you right now, 5 years ago, this was not even on the radar at all. And so it's really cool to see practice owners start to take their business serious. There's more competition, there's smarter patients, there's tighter margins, and the gap between thriving and surviving has never been wider. So the opportunity is yours, right? So we've crossed the point where we have a med spa basically on every corner, right? I read a stat that we over 12,000 medical aesthetics practices now. There's like 13,000 McDonald's in the US. So, you're almost a 1-to-1 ratio on your Big Mac, versus your Botox injection, right? So how do you differentiate, right? Because McDonald's is one brand, ran the same way. You guys are all different brands, right? And so how do you differentiate? How do you build up a value proposition? How do you separate yourself from the market? That's one of the things that you're definitely going to need to focus on. So with over 12,000 spas operating in the US, and more are opening every day, right? Some are closing, some are opening. But, one of the most interesting things to me is most of them, over 50% of them, make less than $1 million a year. And to me, it's just astonishing, because this is only like $80,000 a month in top line revenue. And, it's the opportunities there, the patients are there. And to me, I just have a hard time understanding it, because there's so much demand. There's so much demand. And if you have patients that are bouncing all over the place, and we keep, discounting all the way to the bottom, so margins are tighter, really there's no differentiation, right? You're just going to find yourself, part of that statistic, unfortunately. But what's exciting is the ones that are winning, they've stopped playing small. They've stopped treating this like a glorified job and started running it like a true, real business. They're not just providing treatments, they're building wealth. And that's what we're going to dive into today, the blueprint that's helping everyday owners become medical millionaires. That's a part of this show, guys. So if you're a solo injector, you're a first-time owner, or someone scaling at multiple locations, this episode, all the content we create, it's for you, And so what we're going to talk about today is the 4 business levers, the top 10% are using. Okay. 4 business levers the top 10% are using. What's working in 2026, not just what worked in 2022. I think if you had a medical aesthetics practice in 21, 22, even going into 23, it was like having a heartbeat and a real estate license. We were all making money. We're all having good. The music's never going to stop. I can tell you right now, the music has stopped for people, and let's keep the music keep humming for us, huh? So what you can apply in the next 90 days and how you can apply insights is going to completely shift your trajectory, completely shift it. Okay. So let's get into segment number 1. I wanted to put this out on a sheet so I could follow this in detail for us and have this episode really stand out. All right. The medical aesthetics market is now worth estimated to be 19 billion. Okay. Some say it could be, 20, 21 billion, but let's just say ballparking 19 to 21 billion. The average MedSpa revenue is right around 1.39 million per year. That's it. 1.39 million per year. That's average. Okay. That's average, but 50% are making less than $1 million a year. Okay. Only a fraction of practices are clearing 3 million plus a year. And that's the opportunity right there. If you are not hitting $3 million a year, it's completely doable. And there is a way to get there. There is a particular avenue of getting there, right? You have to increase your patient frequency. You have to increase your patient spend. You have to build treatment plans. You have to have the right tech. You have to have the right team. You have to know your marketing to spend ratios. You have to know your conversion rates, your rebooking rates. You have to know your numbers. You have to know your guys' information, your data points, your team. You have to run huddles. Like I could go on and on and on and on. Okay. I can tell you where a quick path to increase in revenue would be. Like if you're like, look, numbers are hard for me. I hate P&Ls. I hate balance sheets. You talk about patient frequency, patient spend. I can't get the data from my EMR. Look, if you're not investing in wellness, if you haven't rolled out medical weight loss, GLP-1s, memberships, strategic marketing, peptides, hormone replacement therapy, pellets. If you're not looking at this from a holistic standpoint, a medical office standpoint, healing from the inside out and the outside in standpoint, you're missing out. These people are seeing it all over TikTok, Instagram, like everywhere. They're going to parties. We were just, New Year's just took place. Holidays, people are looking good. People want to feel good, right? And how are they doing it? Obviously we, work out, eating healthy, that's all part of it. But at the same time, these GLP-1s have really been put on the market and people are biting at them, and they want to feel good. The peptides when it comes to, Wolverine tech stack, right? Like that's something that I've been big into, Samoralin, some of these others, hormone replacement therapy. All this stuff is available and it can be shipped directly to the patient, can be shipped to the practice. And, the point is the patients have the ability to self-inject at home. And it creates this patient stickiness, this patient frequency, this loyalty, and this trust to you, right? They've been coming to you for injectables for years, right? Fillers. Fillers kind of got an interesting thing going on right now, by the way. There's like some bad sentiment out there around filler. Maybe we've overfilled or whatever, and you put the GLP-1s to it. It kind of gives you that Ozempic look, whatever it is. All that stuff will get flushed out. But the point is, you visit every patient and make sure they know exactly what you do. If they only think you do injectables and you have this whole other wellness part of your practice, this holistic, component to your practice, and you have laser treatments, you have retail products that help, they need to know about it, right? And the ones that are really continually to grow their revenues, they have conversations with their patients. They ask them questions. They run a very robust, thorough consultation, and they build a treatment plan, right? Build a treatment plan and think about it. I go into your practice and I'm like, look, I want to, I got a talk coming up and I got to get rid of some of these wrinkles, give me some Botox here and here, poke, poke, poke. Okay, cool, Cam, we can do that, right? But like, how do we truly stop the aging process or slow it down? How else are you feeling? And start asking me questions. Hey, have you heard of GLP-1s? Have you heard of, the weight loss stuff? Or have you heard of these peptides? If how are you feeling? Like, you guys are the providers. You know how to ask the right questions, right? And be intimate and care. because we're actually desperate for knowledge as patients. We're truly desperate for knowledge. We want information. We want to feel good. We want to look good. I feel like there's this whole theme going on right now where we all just want to strengthen who we are as an individual. We want to feel smart. We want to feel young. We want to look young. We want to be intimate with our partners. And, you're just feeling it, right? And the only place we can go get it is actually from a provider. I mean, I guess we could go online and order it and have it shipped to ourselves, but then we don't know what to do, right? We don't know how to reconstitute it. We don't know how to cycle it. We don't know how to inject it, and I think there's all this shit noise on the internet of all this, peptide, GLP-1 weight loss stuff where it's easy for us to go get, but at the same time, it's the education behind it that we need and that we're actually desperate for. So I'm a big fan of putting the power back in the provider. I want to see a provider and I want to have questions and intimate conversations of what my goals truly are. I can't get that by clicking a couple buttons on the internet. I can get it by having conversation with you guys. Okay. So that's what I wanted to really get across when it comes to your value proposition. What are you offering? How are you having the conversations? Right. And then another quick path, guys, could be really looking at your memberships. I've seen memberships that are robust and work well. I've seen memberships that are like completely catastrophic, and remember, you're selling time. Okay. So as a provider, you sell time. Someone comes in, they book at 2:30, you're doing a treatment, you're selling time, you're exchanging dollars for time in that intimate conversation. So be careful of the memberships you roll out, right? Are you selling, or do you have too cheap of a value proposition and giving away time? So do a time analysis on your memberships. Okay. Make sure like it includes some retail product, bolt in your wellness membership into your aesthetic membership, have maybe 2 or 3 different options, have a beauty bank, whatever it is. I think it's a great time to look at your memberships. How are they being allocated? Are they sticky? Are people canceling? What is your churn rate? What is your, annual reoccurring revenue rate? Is it working? Is it creating true profitability? And are people coming in to redeem? Now, they need to be coming in to redeem, and when they redeem, you need to upsell, right? So it's not just about having like predictable revenue with memberships. It's really about increasing patient frequency, creating stickiness within the practice, and making sure every time they come in and redeem, you're having a conversation with them about how they're doing, showing them other things that are going on in the practice, because this is just changing so fast every single day, right? Like we weren't having these conversations about GLP-1s and peptides 3, 4, 5 years ago at all. Like we just weren't. And now it's becoming a big talking point. Okay. So a couple data points for you. Help practices grow by 30% in revenue. Okay. So if you have a med spa, and you have memberships, let's just say you don't have memberships, you're at risk for a 30% reduction in revenue growth. So we want them. We're used to them. We like our Netflix bills. We like, as much as we say, another subscription out there, we're just used to it. We rent things, at this day and age. Some of us rent our iPhones. We rent music. We rent movies. Remember when you used to have a pack of CDs in your car? Or, that next to your, like the DVD player with all the DVDs, and we collect the DVDs. We don't like to do that stuff anymore, right? It's just clutter, right? So we'd rather rent it, So think about that, because when you think of consumer mind behavior like yourself, you'll start to think differently. And so I'd encourage you guys to roll out those memberships. And, 175% increase in membership sales with top performing practices, okay? Like that's huge, okay? 175% increase in membership sales and top performing practices. So if you have the right membership program, you're going to see a balloon in revenue. Reoccurring revenue equals stability plus retention. We all know that. And so if less than 25% of your revenue is from memberships, you're leaking cash flow. Okay. I'd like to see people that have at least 25% of their revenue from memberships. So how do you sell more memberships? First off, have the right membership game plan, the right model. Number 2, make sure you're telling your patients about it. The front desk needs to be telling them about it. And you should compensate your front desk for selling it. Compensate your providers for selling it, right? If it's just another thing in the basket to sell, they're not going to sell it. They need to have a reason to sell it. If it's robust and it's something they would subscribe to, they would prescribe to, then have it in your basket, but compensate your team correctly, right? And I could build on that for forever. I think like compensation models in this industry are completely broken. Not all, right? I've seen some great ones, but for the most part, most compensation models are broken. There is no performance-based comp at the front desk. There's no performance-based comp at the provider level. And so therefore, your membership sales obviously are going to drop. Your retail sales are going to drop. Your rebooking rates are going to drop. Your conversion rates are going to drop, right? If you don't have performance-based compensation around this stuff, that's a huge issue. And in fact, I may do a episode just on compensation because it's an area that needs so much massaging in this industry. Number two, when we're talking about the 4 levers of growth, would be add-on services. It's a quick, easy way to upsell. Huge margins, add on the services. And so again, if somebody comes in, they want a specific service or treatment, why are we not adding on a service? Why are we not talking to them about bolting on something else? They're already there, right? And if you're under industry average, if your average patient ticket is under $530 per visit, this is something you absolutely have to bolt on. And you may ask yourself, well, what do I bolt on? How do I do it? Guys, think of what would you want if you went in and got, a Botox treatment, filler treatment, some sort of injectable CO2 laser, whatever it is. Like, what would you want to add on to that? Okay. If you want a better result, you're probably going to want retail products, right? To go on with that, right? So what about, bolting on a laser treatment that goes with the injectable? Okay. Bundle your services. Okay. And I'll tell you right now, the top 10% of med spas offer add-ons in 34% of appointments. Those are the ones that increase their average ticket. Okay. And I have a data point. So top 10% of the med spas offer add-ons in 34% of appointments. Just 5% of average clinics increase 63% in average ticket, 103% in client lifetime value. Okay. And that's what these top practices are doing. They're bolting them on in the appointments. They're increasing their average ticket by 63%. They're increasing their average lifetime value by 103%. So audit your service flow. Are staff trained to recommend add-ons? Is the front desk? Are the providers? Are you role playing? Are you role playing when it comes to your consultations? Like, this is the type of stuff you guys need to be looking at. Okay. Now, number 3, location scaling and multi-channel income. Practices that open a second location, this is in 2024, they saw 50% revenue growth, but 81% of med spas are still single location. So if you want to scale and you want to go from 1 location to 2, again, what we're saying is when you have the ability to, when you have the systems, the delegation, the KPI tracking, when you have all your standard operating procedures locked in, then you can open up location 2. If you try to do location 2 before all that, your chances of failing are actually 67%. Okay. If you want to see an increase in revenue growth, have that stuff in order. Okay. Then you can go multi-location, but you need to have the systems and delegation and KPI tracking in place. So do a spot lock, right? Make sure you got the SOPs, leadership team structure. That's another thing I see always just like below par is how the org is set up. Who is actually the office manager? Who is the front desk? Who's the social media person? What are the KPIs and metrics and SOPs around them? What is their performance-based compensation? Like, absolutely critical. I see time and time again, we pay our, front office manager XYZ a month. She's on salary. Cool. What's her performance-based comp? Why is she going to be motivated? Like, we want to grow 20% this year. How is she going to help contribute to that top line and the bottom line? How is she compensated? If you grow 20%, why is she not compensated? She should be rewarded for that. What if you go down 10%? You're going to pay her the same, right? The pay should fluctuate based upon the revenue, based upon the net income. Everybody needs to be on performance-based compensation to move the needle forward. You all have to be on the same page, okay? And number 4, let's talk about marketing investments for faster growth. In 2025, only 15% of med spas spent more than $5,000 a month. That's crazy. That means 85% of you out there spent less than $5,000 a month on marketing. In 2026, that number jumped so far, is what we're predicting, to 25%, right? So 25%, it's a 67% increase, more important than budget, how you invest, right? So here's what I see happening is the individuals that are actually spending the most on marketing and aligning their marketing to revenue ratios correctly, they have ROI tracking. They've invested in AI for content and automation. They have strategy-led campaigns. That's why they're spending more. And the ones that are underspending, they're not seeing an ROI. They have no automation, and there's no strategy campaigns. Like, they don't know what their attribution tracking are. What is their ROAS? How many dollars went in? How many dollars went out? Right? They're not actually looking at this stuff, and so they have no idea, so they're going to spend less. Right? But the ones that actually have the true metrics, the ones that get it, the ones that see a return on ROAS of 4-to-1, they're going to continue to invest in marketing. Well, why not pump 20, 30, 40K into marketing if you're going to get a 4-to-1 ROAS return? Like, it just makes sense, right? So if you're spending less than 5% of your revenue on marketing, it's time to level that up big time, okay? Because patients want to go somewhere, might as well come to you, okay? Last thing I want to get into here is I want you to start thinking like a millionaire mindset, manager, owner, operator, CEO. The top earners think like CEOs, not injectors. And I know that, that's what we are, is we're injectors. But if you want to practice, start calling yourself a CEO. If you are, start calling yourself a practice owner, start calling yourself a business owner, right? And what you do at your practice is, you inject, you see patients, and you deliver patient outcomes and experiences, right? Like, if I met you at a party, you're like, I'm an injector. It's like, everybody's an injector. Everybody can go to McDonald's and get the Big Mac, I guess, right? Or the Diet Coke, or whatever the hell it is. But it's like, no, I'm a practice owner. I own a medical aesthetics practice, and I deliver the best patient outcomes in this entire town. That's what I do for a living. Sounds pretty good. Can I come see you next week? Right? So it's like we just have to level up, and I think a lot of it has to come with who we think we are, and we're above just injectors, okay? So what I want you guys to do is systems over hustle. I want you to really start investing in systems, technology, process automation, CRMs, EMRs. Even if you have them, you're probably not using them to their fullest capacity. In fact, years ago, I ran a study, and it shows that when you use technology, most people only use about 20% of its horsepower. And then you leave and go use something else because you think your current software doesn't have the ability to deliver what it can do. Very expensive to change softwares. Very expensive, okay? So looking at what you currently have before you leave. Again, systems. And I want you to start looking at team over ego, okay? I know if you're the owner and you're the top injector and you're the top provider, that could carry ego, which is fine. You get it. You're the golden nugget. You're the golden star. You're the king of the practice, the queen of the practice, right? But your team is more important than you. And you got to build a team. It's time to start building a team, building compensation models around your team, rally cries around your team huddles, team role playing. All those things need to take place, right? Michael Jordan never won the championship by himself. I mean, he obviously was a key contributor, but if you ever watch that show that he came out with, his documentary, all his team players talked about it, and he talked about his team. Okay. Margins over popularity. I think this is a big one. Okay. Most of the time, we want to win as many deals as we possibly can, so we're willing to discount, we're willing to give up something. And you win more deals, sure, you're popular. But I would focus on winning less deals and having your margins be higher. Don't be the discount shop. Be the place that sells expertise. Be the place that delivers patient outcomes. Be the place that actually gives the patient the best experience possible, okay? So I want you guys to ask these questions. Do you know your revenue per appointment? What percentage of your income is reoccurring? What is my average client lifetime value? Am I running a practice? Am I building a brand? That's what I want you guys to look at. So maybe it's time to build or revamp your membership program, train your team, add on conversions, right? Train your team, consultations, treatment planning, role playing. Invest in marketing with ROI discipline, systematize before you scale. Okay, you don't need to hustle harder, guys. You need to build smarter, And that starts with treating your medical aesthetics practice like $1 million business. I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much. You guys, do me a favor. If you found this specific episode valuable, share it, like it, comment it. Go tune into the YouTube channel. I'm going to be having some really cool guests on coming up here earlier this year. And we're really going to be ramping up the show. So super excited. Thank you guys so much. I'll leave it at that. Happy injecting.